A pay-per-view entitled Money in the Bank is this weekend. Somebody, though, who got Money in the Bank, literally Triple H, sold $1 million of his WWE stock. He still has $6 million left. Does that leave you worried at all, Brandon?
I don't think so. I think it'll be fine. I mean, everybody's worried about it right now. I don't see it as a big deal.
We'll talk this and much more as the Heel to Face podcast starts right now.
So silence your cell phones, hold your applause, and tune into the truth.
Oh, you didn't know? Your ass better call somebody.
Getting beat up by 9 guys in Syracuse, to me, there's not a whole lot of shame in.
From the 315 to the world, this is the Heel to Face podcast.
The cream of the crop! Wow, man, freaked out!
Follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Heel to the Face.
I said, are you ready?
From Armory Square in downtown Syracuse, New York, let's send it now to Brandon and Jared.
Bad luck seems to be my middle name. They might as well tag me up with my buddies from Syracuse.
A little shadowy outside, as you can probably see, a little dark in both myself and Brandon's pods, or if you're listening via one of our podcast formats. You don't know it all, but either way, a great way to waste 30 minutes of your time. This is the Heel to the Face podcast. My name is K-Rock Jared. That's where you can find me on social media. On the other side of this Skype conversation is Brandon Clements. You can find hhim at Icebreaker21 and the program at Heel to the Face on Twitter. We kind of teased there that Triple H just sold $1 million of his now $6 million left stock in WWE. The biggest sale he's ever been a part of since owning WWE stock. But I kind of want to start there just because the fact that I found out that he might need that $1 million because A&E has recently picked up a show that will involve him, Triple H, Paul Levesque, and Stephanie McMahon, where they travel the country looking for WWE relics and lost memorabilia. It's going to be like American Pickers WWE memorabilia style. Are you into that, Brandon? Because I know I am.
I'm definitely, and I mean, I'm an American Pickers fan. So, like, when you say American Pickers with a WWE twist, I'm in 110%. Let's go. When does this happen? I'm
not sure when it's happening. I mean, this is all some new stuff that I've been reading. A&E has signed on for this show, but yeah, they'll probably need that $1 million, and I can imagine what awesome stuff. They said they're going to go into old wrestlers' households or their storage bins and try to find things that, people just like myself, when you're leaving a WWE event and you see that banner for a pay-per-view and you rip it down and throw it in your car, Triple H is going to be knocking on your door, maybe looking for some way to buy it back from you.
Love it.
I'm looking forward to that show. But as we move on to more current topics, Money in the Bank, WWE pay-per-view this upcoming weekend on pay-per-view. Before we get there, though, we had Raw and the SmackDown prior to that, as well as NXT and AEW this past week, leading into Money in the Bank, or AEW just leading into Double or Nothing, and more importantly, leading into what it looks like to have fans at a wrestling show.
Yeah.
Because they had a few people there. But I want to start with Monday Night Raw. I've wanted to talk about this for a while, and I think, it's great that I want to talk about this for a while when this week it actually made the most news. Monday Night Raw's lowest rating ever. Now, this is the lowest rating for any non-holiday show, meaning Christmas night or the night before Christmas. The lowest rating for that was a Christmas Eve show that drew 1.7 million viewers. Overall, 1.6 million viewers. Now, I was trying to do the statistics here because, they do the rates of, the millions and then the percentages. The average Raw in, let's say, 1997, 1998, 1999, in the height of everything as it was going back up, the average Raw was about a 6 rating with an all-time high of an 8 rating. Now, an 8 rating would indicate at that time about 10-plus million viewers. A 6 rating would indicate about 8 million viewers. This week's Raw was 1.6 for the average. The first hour saw 1.8 and overall 1.6. Now, what stock do you take into the ratings here? Because I think this is huge. And the reason I think this is huge, and we've talked about ratings before, but I think this is the biggest and most important time ever, is because I know it's not a lot of people, but there's 20,000 people right now who are not at Raw that could be adding to your numbers. Your numbers should be not at all-time highs, but
No.
your numbers shouldn't be at all-time lows because you've never had a time where you've had a more captive audience. And that, to me, I like it because it just shows that what you're doing right now is not sustainable. So Monday Night Raw, if you're thinking about doing this in front of no fans for the future, if you're thinking about kind of doing this performance center thing, I'm liking that this is indicating don't do that because, yeah, your ratings are awful right now.
Yeah, it's kind of scary, nerve-wracking because so many people with the pandemic going on, there's nothing else to do but watch content, you know. And when you're getting that low of a rating, that's not good. And also, I want to take a guess at the highest rating of all time. Was it the Stone Cold '98 Vince McMahon stuff, or was it something else?
It was at 1999 Raw. That was the highest rating. It was just kind of a random Raw. It didn't really have much going on. But yeah, I mean, the Mike Tyson stuff, I've been watching a lot of the 98 stuff recently. You know, the Mike Tyson coming out on Monday Night Raw, you know, those ones. It's funny because 95 saw ratings similar to this. Just actually even better than this by a little bit. When apparently, you know, WWE claims and most fans say it's the worst year. 96 saw a dip, but then 97 saw that spike. And that's when, you know, they started to catch right back up with WCW. And then in late 98, I think early 99 is when they overtake WCW Nitro. But yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. That's why this is scary. This is scary because you got to think when Raw had its all-time high rating, there was another wrestling show on at the same time. That means there was 20,000 people in an arena at Raw that weren't watching Raw. There was 10,000 to 20,000 people at a Nitro taping that weren't watching Raw because they were at an event. There was 5 million people that were watching Nitro. And then because there wasn't a pandemic going on, you probably had people who were wrestling fans who, I mean, I don't want to put people in a critique, but I mean, probably a lot of them are in their ages between 18 and 34, and between 18 and 34, that's a lot of ages of waiters, people who work retail, so a lot of people that were at work. You know, yeah. There's probably millions and millions of people who didn't watch Raw at those times because they were at work, had to tape them and watch them later. So right now you have no waiters at work, no other than Walmarts and Targets, you know, for the most part, millions and millions of people who'd be working second shift between 8 and 11 o'clock on a Monday, not working.
DVR is very important because
I mean, yes, I know people watch their content a lot differently, and that's why I didn't take a lot of stock in ratings before because people watch the content a lot differently. But I still feel right now that TV has kind of returned a little bit because of the fact that people, their lives have been put on pause. You know, a couple months ago, it was different because people had to work, so they DVR'd it, they watch highlights later. But right now, I feel like there's really nothing left. You know, a good example of this last The Last Dance with the Michael Jordan, this documentary is getting great ratings. Not, you know, people aren't watching it later, they're not watching it after, they're watching it live. Yeah. We're returning a little bit to things when they're happening, people watching them as they happen because they're not doing anything. The reason they DVR it, the reason they watch it on tape is because later on they're busy. But right now they're not busy. Monday Night Raw, they're not busy. So I'm not saying they should be reaching all-time high numbers. I get that, but they shouldn't be reaching all-time low numbers.
No, it's nerve-wracking because again, there's all these people home. There's nothing else to do except watch content. And when you have shows like Tiger King on Netflix getting the numbers that it's gotten and it's sustained it for a while. I mean, it just lost the top spot I think last week. But you get shows like that are, you know, their box office appeal. It's kind of scary because WWE's product is just garbage right now, unfortunately. I mean, I still watch it, you know. And here's the thing: I DVR it. I have YouTube TV, so I DVR it, and I watched all my shows in the last 24, 48 hours because I don't watch anything live anymore. I DVR it because I just don't want to sit there for 2 or 3 hours. I'll fast forward stuff.
The problem is, you know, other than AEW this past week, nothing is live anymore. So that obviously doesn't create the urgency for me to watch it like back in the day. You know, when things were live, I don't know what it is, but I mean, look at SmackDown. SmackDown had that huge resurgence when it was on Tuesday nights because all of a sudden it was live. It was no longer the B show. And what made SmackDown the B show to begin with was 100% that it was a taped product. Now, I'm not saying that people are putting out spoilers, but just the idea that this has been edited, just the idea that this isn't live kind of takes away from it. The setup takes away from it. The not having the crowd takes away from it. To me, after this Money in the Bank pay-per-view, I really hope this is the last pay-per-view that's pre-taped. because after this, I don't know what they have going forward, but the next pay-per-view might be one that I don't watch live and maybe just skim through. Don't watch it all. I mean, until we get back to normalcy. I'm not saying I'm done watching wrestling, but after Money in the Bank, until we get back to normalcy, I might take a pause from WWE, current.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I mean, I'm kind of in that boat right now too. I literally have been going back and watching some WWE Network content. I've been watching I think it's like the greatest Stone Cold moments. It's like a 4-hour thing. So I've been kind of like watching like 45 minutes here and there, just kind of watching things. And actually, you might know this better than me because you're the expert with the dates and everything. But I believe I just watched part of the Raw, the last Raw in Syracuse back in 1998, I think it was, where Stone Cold was supposed to be the corporate guy now, and that.
So that was taped 2 nights. I think it was. So it might have been March 31st. It was 2 nights after Monday night or after WrestleMania 14. It aired 2 weeks after. So the night after WrestleMania 14, Raw was live from Albany. And then the next night, they taped the Syracuse one on a Tuesday night because that's back when they used to do the Monday, Tuesday until obviously Tony Schiavone and Nitro, spoiling Raw, ruined that, obviously. That's when they moved to live all the time. But they used to tape, obviously, without SmackDown. They tape Monday and Tuesday and then have a 1 week delayed Raw. So that was a Raw that taped on a Tuesday, aired on a Monday. And yeah, that's the last televised event from WWF WWE to happen from Syracuse. The last televised wrestling event that happened from Syracuse, I'm pretty sure, is obviously that David Arquette Thunder that happened in the year 2000. But this century here in Syracuse, we've only seen house shows, no WWE live TV.
Can we get something like that back? I mean, with the lack of attendance right now, obviously with the pandemic, do you think WWE? I mean, we've talked about this before. Do you think WWE is going to go back to these kind of home roots, like the I don't know, the home roots of small towns? Do you think they'll go back to that?
I think what started this whole thing, and it's kind of strange, but I think the big thing is, and we saw it with the HD set, WWE has much more of a stringent look now when it comes to their television show. They have this look of, they don't want like a gaudy looking place. They want, back in 98, obviously you watched that Raw, you could see the banners that hung up in the rafters for UPN 43, for Lamakia Honda. I mean, so, you saw it. You could see that in the back of Tully's. Tully's. Yeah, you can see. So now that they've done the upgrades at the War Memorial here in Syracuse, where we've got the ticker bars, we've got new seating, and if you had a Raw taped, I feel like it could look pretty normal. That's, as I just mentioned with the HD set, they have this like universal look. And I think that's a negative because, not just the set itself, but the arenas they pick just look cookie cutter. You can't really tell where they are. Back in the day, certain pay-per-views at the Garden, you could tell they're at the Garden. You can tell we're at the Forum. You can tell the arena, not just by the set, but by the arena itself. You could tell where they were. Now you can't so much, but with the way that they've done the upgrades at the War Memorial, with the ticker boards and stuff like that, so you want to see that kind of gaudy upper deck, maybe so. And if not, AEW, definitely I could see coming into Syracuse.
Oh, AEW, obviously. Yeah, I mean, AEW for sure. I mean, obviously, we were supposed to go right as the pandemic really started kicking. We were supposed to go to Rochester for AEW. So, I mean, if Rochester's going to get it, Syracuse will probably get something too, because AEW is not going to get it. They're not doing the 20,000 seat arenas. They're doing the more, 5, 6, 7, 8,000 seat arenas. So I think AEW for sure. You're going to get a live event, a televised live event.
AEW is definitely a good chance. I will say this much though, that Rochester has, in this century, since the year 2000 and since '98 when Syracuse hosted Raw, has gotten a lot more. They've gotten Raws, they've gotten SmackDowns. They probably got maybe one Raw or one SmackDown every 2 years in Rochester. So they've still been getting the TV shows in Rochester as well. I want to say even Binghamton in the year 2005 got a Monday Night Raw. So Albany, Binghamton, Rochester, Buffalo, New York. We're the only place out of all those cities that since the turn of the century have not gotten a televised WWE show.
Well, I'll say this. If AEW comes to Syracuse, obviously we're going to go, obviously.
But AEW back to Rochester, we're going to go, hopefully.
Yeah, that too. But I mean, if AEW comes to Syracuse, I want that place packed with wrestling fans, because I want WWE to see, hey, if we put a televised live show like AEW just did, we're gonna draw a good crowd. I think there's a lot of great fans of wrestling in Syracuse where they're smart fans, where they're not going to the live event shows. I talk to friends all the time that check out our show, and they're like, yeah, I don't go to live events either because I like to see stuff with the storylines. And they're like me. So if you get a televised event here in Syracuse like AEW and they do really well, or we show up and we put on a great show as an audience, WWE is going to have to kick the tires on bringing it back a live television show here in Syracuse. Don't you think?
Yeah, maybe minus Shawn Michaels this time around. I don't think he wants to come back to Syracuse. But moving on, NXT, AEW. Let's start at NXT. Talk about a good presentation. Every time I watch it, I wonder why. I mean, I don't mean to, be the person who hates on WrestleMania, but if you watch NXT, you can't help but think, why didn't you at least even film the matches here at Full Sail? A good example of that was the debut this week of a certain new wrestler who had an amazing entrance, if you know who I'm speaking of.
Oh, Killer, Carrying, whatever you want to go with now, the PG cross now. Killer Cross, Carrying Cross. Fantastic. That entrance is phenomenal. It's now one of my favorite entrances in the business. I think it was awesome. Very quick match, which I wasn't surprised because of course he's going to come in and squash somebody. So overall, I'm excited for what Cross has got coming for us.
Did you enjoy NXT overall? What was your highlights?
I thought it was a decent show. Not surprised that Velveteen Dream didn't win the title. What I picked up though is there going to be this thing where Loomis and Velveteen Dream are teammates, or are they going to be opponents now? It like the way Morrow and the broadcast team are kind of saying it, like, did Loomis cost him the match, or is Velveteen going to look at it like that, or is he going to look like, oh, he helped me out? I'm kind of curious if they're going to build something with Dexter Loomis and him. Which way do you think it's going to go?
I feel like he's going to team up with Velveteen Dream for a little bit because I feel like everyone kind of has the storyline where they're going after the Undisputed Era. And he seems like a guy who definitely seems like he wants to get shot right up to the title picture.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing, too. The thing I like about the potential tag, the teaming of Dream and Loomis, they're such odd personalities. Like, how cool would that be for for a tag team run? That'd be cool. I think Loomis is awesome. I think he's great.
NXT's got some great characters right now. Scarlett Bordeaux, obviously, with Cross. She came over from Impact Wrestling. She is one of the best looking things in wrestling in a decent amount of time. She's kind of weird because she kind of brings back the non-wrestler diva. She is in Impact, she was Scarlett Bordeaux, and she was very much, you didn't even know she had anything to do with wrestling in her time in Impact because she was just always posting photos, in outfits and just how ritzy and rich and sexy, and it was like this big burlesque thing. So I kind of like her kind of fitting in there as the manager position.
I mean, they're dating in real life, so it was kind of I think when Cross was negotiating his deal, I think that was part of the deal, I would assume, because he wanted to bring his girl with him. I mean, they've been together long enough, so overall, I thought
didn't that make you think, like, why couldn't we have had something like this? Again, this has nothing to do with no actual people in attendance. It has to do with what we saw at NXT. I mean, we're watching NXT. Like, you couldn't have gave Brock Lesnar, Braun Strowman. You couldn't give them. And I don't even understand why the event wasn't filmed at Full Sail. Because if you notice at Full Sail, they have that video board kind of thing hanging over the ring versus, a big fan, which I think, just NXT looks better than the Performance Center. So I don't understand how you didn't film WrestleMania from there. Because, again, my big complaint hasn't ever been that there was no fans. There's nothing you can do about that, but it has to do with the fact that just because there's no fans doesn't mean you had to drop everything else. I mean, NXT shows us week in and week out that can even look better. Or AEW, as we move on to AEW this past week.
AEW, fantastic, by the way. Great show this week. I just finished watching it about 2 hours ago. They're doing it right because obviously the Khan family owns the Jaguars, and they have that entire complex. They got the stadium, and then they got that little outdoor arena, like pavilion, amphitheater, whatever you want to call it. It's a great setup. I thought the show was great. To me, it was probably the best wrestling we've seen this week. I thought it was really good. Jericho was involved. That was cool. Matt Hardy, he looked good. The thing that's so funny about watching Matt Hardy in AEW is they're like, oh, that's a variation of a cutter. It's so funny you can't say certain words like twisted fate, and they were doing like poetry in motion, things like that. It's just so funny about the legality where they can't say certain things. It's interesting, but overall, I really enjoyed the show. I thought Brody Lee, that was a good segment with Moxley. I thought that was really good. Cody Rhodes. I mean, what else can you say about Cody Rhodes? He's been doing great things. What do you think about the upcoming match too at the pay-per-view with Cody?
Double or Nothing you're talking about, correct?
Yeah. Yep.
Between Moxley and Brody Lee?
No, I was thinking Cody and what the heck's his name? The big guy.
Lance,
there it is. I couldn't think of his name for a second. Lance Archer. I can't wait for that. That's going to be fun. That's going to be a great.
I'm kind of curious how this pay-per-view. I mean, we saw this past week what they did is obviously they had wrestlers, but you could tell when they went in the back area, they went throughout the concourse, that they had more than just wrestlers. It must have been friends and family, but that definitely added a good element to everything. Because you saw some kids and stuff like that hanging out and watching the match. And I loved how you could see the Jaguars field in the background for that final shot with the inner circle, and they put it on the scoreboard.
That was cool. I mean, AEW is doing it right. I really have to say that AEW is not.
It looks like an AEW show minus fans. They don't change other than a few weeks. For the most part, it looks like they would be putting. That's what it would look like, just minus fans. I add the fans. It's not going to look different. That's the problem with the Performance Center. This isn't like the Mankind versus Rock empty arena match where it was still on a Raw, still an arena. The Performance Center is just a completely different animal. It has nothing to do with how many people are there. It has to do with it looks like a bingo hall or less than.
Yeah, no, AEW across the board, it's just been the better product. I mean, they've been beating NXT in the ratings too. I mean, it's been close, but AEW has been the best wrestling product. I mean, the only WWE stuff I've really enjoyed lately is going back through the archives. Like we talked off air, and I went back and watched King of the Ring. I've been watching Best of Stone Cold. I've been going back and just kind of flipping through matches. That stuff's been fun. I watched a special last night on Triple H and Mick Foley. It was like a 50 minute. Fantastic. The Untold. It was great. I enjoyed that. I watched that. Mick Foley, man. You forget how much he did for the business. People forget. I mean, a lot of the newer fans that are like newer wrestling fans, they just see Mick Foley coming in like, oh, who's this guy? That guy put on. He laid his body out for everybody. Like he was just so good. He was not afraid to use his body in different ways to get over.
So we're running down a little bit of time here, so we're gonna get right to Money in the Bank. Money in the Bank this weekend. Most of it's probably pre-taped. The big, obviously, match is the dual Money in the Bank. Both the men's and women's match are going to go on at the same time from WWE headquarters, while the rest of the matches, I'm assuming, are going to be at the Performance Center. So let's start with the matches that are going to take place in Performance Center. The Fatal 4-Way match for the SmackDown Tag Belts. The New Day, who are the champs, taking on The Miz and Morrison. The Forgotten Sons and Lucha House Party. Who do you see leaving here? Do you see the Forgotten Sons having a chance in this?
I do. I'm actually picking them to win it. They're on a roll right now. I really enjoy what they're doing. They've been great. I mean, they were just kind of thrown in the fray because of the injuries to the injury to one of the Uso brothers. That's what I reportedly they got called up because of the injury to one of the Usos. And they've taken that ball and they've ran with it. They've done a hell of a job. They're really good in the ring. And and Blake was a champion with Murphy back in the day in the NXT. So this guy knows how to tag. I like the whole crew. Cutler and Riker are really good. I think they're going to upset people. I think they're going to win. They're not really. I don't think if you put everybody in that match, they're going to be forgotten, so to speak. Pardon the expression, I guess, but they're going to be forgotten. But I think they're going to come away with the win. I think they're just. It's time to change it up a little bit. I mean, the New Day's won so much. Miz and Morrison, it's kind of it's kind of blah. So, and the Lucha House Party, do we really think they're going to win? No. So, Forgotten Sons to me is the obvious choice. Who are you going with?
I gotta probably say the New Day are going to retain.
Yeah, you're probably right. It's unfortunate, but I don't want to see it, but you're probably right. I just want to see Forgotten Sons because they're doing so well. They're on a good roll, and it's fresh. Let's get some fresh content because the ratings suck. Let's do something fresh, you know?
So we got the singles match for the WWE Championship. Drew McIntyre, the champion, his first defense. So he won the belt in front of nobody, and now he's got to continue the storyline in front of nobody. Who knows? His whole title reign could have been he never got to actually hold a title in front of fans. Do you see that happening, or do you see him holding this belt till we get fans again?
I think he's going to keep it for a while. I don't see Seth winning. Drew's going to hang on to that title for a while. He deserves it. Upper management loves him. He's done a great job. He deserves to, be able to carry that title into arenas packed with people, not empty arenas. I just don't see it changing. I really don't.
All right, so the SmackDown Women's Championship match, Bayley versus Tamina. Do you think somebody like Tamina finally gets put over?
As much as I'd like to see it, I don't see it happening. I think Bayley's going to retain. I'm not a huge fan of the new Bayley with her. I like her as a heel. She needs to go back to being the hugger, the happy, face. I'd love to see Tamina, but I think Bayley's going to win.
Braun Strowman, Bray Wyatt, stay in the match. I mean, it's kind of annoying. Tamina is that perfect person for like these in-your-house pay-per-views that, and I feel like this whole event kind of has that perfect person for an in-your-house pay-per-view where you got to defend the belt and you have to defend it against, like the mid-card people because you save the big matches for the big pay-per-views. So as much as I would like to finally see them do something with Tamina, I don't see them doing it here. Tamina is like the Hardcore Holly, the women's division where, you forget that Hardcore Holly had a couple championship matches at pay-per-views because they weren't at major pay-per-views. They were at the in-between ones. When Brock Lesnar was in between fighting Undertaker and Kurt Angle, he had to fight the, Hardcore Hollies of the world and stuff like that. And that's what Tamina is probably, that's her place here.
Yeah.
But a match, I don't want to say these are definitely in-between people, definitely bigger names. Braun Strowman defends his title against Bray Wyatt. So Bray Wyatt obviously lost to Goldberg, and then Braun Strowman beat Goldberg, and now he's fighting Bray Wyatt. I feel like this match, if it had a better story to it, it's just kind of like a rematch kind of thing. Do you see them giving the belt back to Bray Wyatt?
I don't see it at this point. I think the best way to preserve a really good pop, obviously, is you gotta have fans that have a pop, and I think having that pop would be better. Obviously, if Bray Wyatt wins in front of fans, so I think they're going to keep the title on Braun for now. I really don't see it happening. I'm thinking as soon as we get fans back, I think the next pay-per-view with fans, you're going to see Braun drop it.
I see Bray winning it here, and here's why. Because I feel like this whole thing of him losing it was a mistake. Braun Strowman, to me, as much as he's a deserving champion, he was never really written in to be the champion. That was Roman Reigns. So I feel like they might give it back to Bray Wyatt here and kind of just gloss over that whole Goldberg thing because, again, Goldberg was supposed to lose to Roman Reigns. Braun Strowman was just thrown into this. So, I mean, maybe they give Braun a long title run from him going 2 days before WrestleMania, not even knowing he's fighting for the title, to now taking it into the summer. Or maybe they just go back to Bray Wyatt and kind of pretend like the Goldberg thing never happened and kind of move on next.
I'll say this. I think they had Roman written as a champion for a while. I don't think they made too many tweaks into the writing, obviously, aside from flipping Braun into the position. So because of that, I think until Roman Reigns is back, I don't see Braun losing the title.
All right, so from what else I got here, I know there'll be probably a few more matches thrown in at the last minute, but I got the Money in the Bank matches, both happening simultaneously, the women's match and the men's match. What do you think about them happening simultaneously? Like it? Don't like it?
It's going to be interesting. I mean, that's one way to explain it. I guess I'm okay with it. It's something different. I mean, at this point, you gotta do something to make it fresh. I mean, the whole climbing the corporate ladder is a really good gimmick, considering that we don't have fans. So I mean, here's the thing. It's hard to judge until you see it because we've never seen this before. So I'm interested. I'm hoping it doesn't fall flat. So I'm kind of going to be conservative and say I'm curious to see. I'm good. I'm okay with it. But, I mean, I'm not going to be surprised if it falls flat. But I'm really hoping it does.
Simultaneously because I feel like once you do it once, that's it. You can't really do it twice. That'd be like having 2 boneyard matches. So I feel like they're putting all their stock in having this match once, and then they can kind of trash the whole place once, do all these things once, and then the thing is over. We're not going to start at the ground floor, see all the additional floors, and then try to replicate that a few minutes later. I feel like once the cat's out of the bag of what the place looks like, what they're going to do, you kind of got to do it. You got to show it once. And I think one of the big things people are kind of concerned with following along, because it's pre-taped, it shouldn't be that hard to follow along because nothing has to actually be shown live. I mean, Braun Strowman could be punching, or let's say, Daniel Bryan could be punching Rey Mysterio on the second floor, and Aleister Black could be punching King Corbin on the first floor simultaneously. But according to the way they edit it, it can happen not at the same time. So I don't feel like if there's anything that happens, we're going to miss it because they're going to tape it all, and then they can make it so what would have been a 20-minute match could be a 40-minute match because we drag it out. Meaning, Daniel Bryan might be onto the second floor, and then we might see what's happening back on the first floor. But when we join Daniel Bryan again, he won't have advanced further. He'll, kind of, okay, we're not on TV, so let's stop. So I don't think there's going to be anything we're going to miss. Everything's going to be edited, so we'll see everything.
Yeah, and here's the thing too, to kind of follow up on what you're saying. I think it'll be cool that it is edited in some aspects because they're going to have multiple cameras in multiple areas. So like if they're shooting something that's really boring, but like in another room somebody's really having a good sequence, they're going to cut into that. So they're going to make it really. I mean, WWE has. Since it's edited, they really got to make it really good. Then I would assume. But the reason why I'm kind of holding my reservations is because we've gotten excited for different matches and different events, and WWE has just been so uncreative and dropped the ball. So I'm like, the concept is great. I love the concept, but I'm kind of holding conservative because like I don't want to get my hopes up and then again it falls flat. So I'm really hoping it's a good show. I think WWE needs this right now because again the ratings suck, the product sucks. There's no fans, so they got to give us something.
So you got Asuka, Baszler, Nia Jax, Dana Brooke, Lacey Evans, and Carmella for the women. You have Daniel Bryan, Rey Mysterio, Aleister Black, Corbin, Otis, and now AJ Styles for the men. Who do you got for your woman, and who do you got for your man?
Baszler for the women. I'm gonna say AJ Styles for the men. I was gonna go with Aleister Black until AJ Styles made his return, which was kind of a surprise. I wasn't expecting it at that point. So I'm gonna say AJ for the men. I think he's returning, getting it, and then I think Baszler's just Baszler. I mean, if I had to choose anybody else, maybe I don't know. I mean, Otis would be kind of cool, but I think it's.
I'm picking AJ as well. I feel like the real big thing about giving him Money in the Bank here is this is how you kind of transition from a storyline that makes the person look like they're literally dead, and then make people kind of move on and forget about that, and you make them strong again. They've done that with Brock Lesnar before. He's lost a bunch in a row, but you take him off TV, and then you have him win a few matches in a row, and then all of a sudden, he's back like he never, was before. And I feel like that's with AJ Styles. How are you going to follow up him getting buried by The Undertaker? He wins Money in the Bank, and that Undertaker thing seems like a million years ago.
Exactly. I mean, again, I would like to see Aleister Black win it, but I think you're right, and that's why I'm going with AJ Styles as well. I think that's the perfect choice. I mean, who you got on the women's side? I mean, Baszler.
I got Nia Jax. I'm taking Nia Jax for the women.
Really? Why are you going with her?
I just feel like, we talk about promotion. I feel like she's been promoted pretty heavily, just like AJ Styles. She just made her return. So I feel like Nia Jax get some fresh blood in there against Becky Lynch. I guess we haven't really seen Becky. I feel like Nia Jax, her big feud a couple years ago was with Alexa Bliss. Let's see her feud with Becky Lynch for a minute, maybe even take the belt off her. I think Becky Lynch is starting to grow stale here, with her championship. She was hotter than hell about a year ago at WrestleMania, and things have definitely cooled off. So whether it be Shayna Baszler beating her, taking that avenge for WrestleMania, or Nia Jax, I don't think, Lacey Evans or Carmella are going to set the women's division on fire at this moment. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, Becky Lynch, I think she's a super talented individual, but it's time for her to drop the belt. I hope you're not right either, because you got AJ and Nia both returning just recently. It's so predictable by WWE, so I wouldn't be surprised if it's AJ and Nia. but I'm really hoping we get something different, maybe an Aleister Black and a Shayna Baszler. I think that would be really cool, but I mean, it remains to be seen. It should be interesting. I know we'll be talking about it next week. I'm hopefully we're not trashing it. Hopefully we are praising it, or at least saying that wasn't too bad.
I mean, this is WWE, Brandon. You forget that there's 29 people in the Royal Rumble, like Brian Christopher and Rikishi, and Kane's got the most eliminations in history and all this other stuff. Yet Stone Cold Steve Austin seems to be able to win it a lot, and Shawn Michaels seems to win it a lot, and Roman Reigns seems to win it a lot. We've yet to see a Royal Rumble where Taka Michinoku leaves as the winner. Every man for himself, but it seems to be you say Aleister Black here. I don't. It'd be cool to see Otis win Money in the Bank, but I don't. This is WWE here. It's like the Elimination Chamber when you have the Elimination Chamber match right before WrestleMania, and you got people like Otis in there. I don't think Otis is going to main event WrestleMania. Kind of the same in this situation. You say WWE too predictable, but obviously.
Well, that's why we make the choices that we make, because they're kind of obvious. They're obvious choices. So hopefully that's not the case, but I have a feeling that it's probably the case.
Yeah. So next week we're going to talk about the Revival. You listened to them this past week on the Talk is Jericho podcast. They had some interesting things to say from what I heard from you. Obviously, Talk is Jericho is more of an AEW-centric podcast, so we'd love to see and hear about what the Revival have coming for them. Earlier today, on this recording day of a Thursday, Jonathan Snowden, he wrote a recent biography with the help of Ken Shamrock, the most dangerous man in the world, and he had some interesting things to say about Ken Shamrock. I'd love to talk about that next week, as they talked about that today on the Dan Le Batard Show on ESPN Radio. But for this week, we are all out of time. So next week, we'll talk Ken Shamrock's biography, we'll talk the Revival, and we will talk Money in the Bank. For Brandon Clements, you can find him on Twitter at Icebreaker21, and myself at KRockJared. Enjoy your weekend and enjoy our podcast for maybe 30 minutes or more so of your time. Thank you for subscribing and listening and or watching. This has been the Heel to the Face podcast. We will talk to you next week.